Hi, my name is Lizzie Hoffman, and welcome to our 300-hour Holistic Yoga Teacher Training. We'll be using different teachings from Mukunda Stiles, Gary Kraftstyle, Amy Weintraub, Mark Stevens, Gita Iyengar, BKS Iyengar, Eyal Shifrani, Gabriel Cousins, TKV Desikachar, Lauren Fishman, Baxter Bell, Timothy McCall. We have a reading list, and I've given that to you so you can always go through the reading list if you'd like. We're going to understand what holistic and what wellness means in a Western context. Then we're going to review our own understanding of what yoga is and what yoga is not. We're going to talk about what Hatha Yoga is and how it can heal us. We're going to discuss benefits of yoga asana, and we're going to learn to assess, observe, and evaluate ourselves first as assignments that I'm going to give you, and then we're going to turn it around and observe, evaluate, and assess our students. We're going to learn how to see common misalignments and postural misalignments in the body. We're going to learn a little bit of kinesiology and how we move. We're going to learn a basic joint freeing sequence. We're going to optimize sequences for strength and stability and health once we evaluate where the student is tight and where the student is weak, and so that we can help them achieve this balance in the body. We're going to revisit Surya A and Surya B and see who we can use it for and who we can't use it for. We're going to evaluate and reevaluate clients and students, and we're going to go over different modalities of how we learn and how we teach. And I'm also going to ask you at the end of these 2 weeks, how do you teach? And what is your teaching philosophy? And we're going to get really deep into that because it's really important for you as a teacher to understand where your motivation comes from so that we can teach our students that. We're going to have 1 and 2 week assignments, and then we're going to go on to the next week. Let's begin with a story, one of my favorite stories, and it's the story of Matsya. In the beginning, according to Indian mythology, the world was filled with a vast ocean and a few small islands. And in this primordial sea, Matsya, the fish, was swimming near the shore of an island. And he happened upon a conversation between Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati. And seeking instruction in the practice of yoga, Parvati inquired, "I want to attain union with you. You are so attractive, so beautiful to me, and yet when I feel myself close to you, something holds me back. Something keeps me from merging totally into you. But my love is so strong for you, and yet something within me. What could it be? What is holding me back? I want to lose myself in you. I know you would keep me safe and respect me as your own. Please help me to merge more fully into you." So Shiva began a great teaching dialogue with Parvati, saying, "Your love is so strong, so genuine. That which you seek, union with me, is not an attainment. There is nothing to do, for I am your own true self. Out of your love for me, I will reveal the secrets that is yoga. Lose all identity of yourself. Yoga is the process by which we do that. We lose all identity of yourself as a separate being and become united with your nature as both Shiva and Shakti, expansive, created energy, as well as stillness, eternal bliss. Both these qualities are within you. The path to yoga is threefold," Shiva continued, "but the goal is the same. The first path is purifying the ego through loving, selfless service to others, known as karma yoga. And the second is the study of sacred texts and reflecting upon their underlying question, who am I? This is known as jnana yoga, the path of wisdom. The third path is the dedication of all actions to the divine presence. This is known as Bhakti-Yoga, the path of devotion." Hearing this teaching, Matsya, the fish, became more and more absorbed, and then he became still. Through this stillness and these comforting words, he attained perfect posture, asana. He became light. He was raised up to the surface and he arched his back so that he could hear more clearly. Matsyasana. Through the inspiration, he began to feel his heart open. The process of the pose began to transform him. He began to extend himself out of the water, and a sublime force began to awaken within him through this spontaneous motion, and he found himself effortlessly floating on the surface. As he became more still, his breathing was steadied and regulated. He became motionless in the water. He felt a transcendent life force absorbing his mind, and yet he was not breathing. He was experiencing what we call perfect pranayama, in which the life force hidden within his breath becomes suspended. An attraction to the inner experience held him. His steadiness increased, his mind turned within, and as his senses detached from the outside world, pratyahara, and he became totally absorbed, experiencing unity within everything and everyone. As this experience deepened within him, he began to imbibe the state of samadhi, the state of absorption. And he lost all awareness of his fish nature. He experienced all objects as being composed of pure consciousness. Shiva felt him merging into the same consciousness that was his essence. Feeling this oneness, he touched the fish, giving him his blessing and initiation. This blessing instantly transformed Matsya from a fish to a human. Shiva gives him a new name, Matsyendra, the Lord of the Fishes. Matsyendra came onto the land, sat and listened to the discourse between Shiva and Parvati, until the instruction was full and he felt complete. As he listened to the teachings of yoga, he sat in a particular way that twisted his spine and enabled him to remain free of physical distractions while listening intently, the posture that we do called Matsyendra. From this story, we learn that the essence of yoga is transformation. The fish Matsya becomes the first yoga teacher, Matsyendra. So, this is how I was taught to understand yoga. I want you to think about this story. How do you think things have changed in yoga teachings, or how people learn about yoga? And how can you connect it with teaching a story like this? Let's get a bit deeper and explore the meaning of yoga and what it is. We know yoga comes from yuj, to yoke, connect, unite. But let's get further. Everything has two fundamental aspects. The superficial, one which is obvious, clear, and revealed, and the unknown, that which is hidden, secret, and unclear. An example can be a tree that has its trunk, branches, and leaves above the ground. These draw nourishment from the light, while unseen roots draw strength in the darkness from the soil and water. In yoga philosophy, the obvious, that which is in constant motion, is called Shakti. The opposite pole of the unrevealed, that which is eternal and changing, is called Shiva. Shakti, public, exoteric aspects. Shiva, inner, hidden parts, esoteric. The word yoga literally means yoking, in the sense of the coming together of a harmonious relationship between our separate aspects. Different aspects of our perception make yoga either exoteric or esoteric. The yoga teachings regarding bringing the body, mind, and emotions into harmony, such as Hatha Yoga, are exoteric. These teachings focused upon the outer selves in harmony with the inner selves, such as classical yoga, is esoteric. In exoteric-based Hatha Yoga, the practice focuses on developing health to optimal physiological and psychological levels. In esoteric-based classical yoga, the practices focus on developing insight to know the hidden truth about one's nature. In the yogic view of human anatomy, there are 5 bodies, sheaths, koshas. Exoteric yoga practices strengthen the physical body. The first body is the physical body, the Annamaya kosha, while at the same time purifying the hidden bodies. The second body is the Pranamaya kosha, is the subtle body which makes up the emotional sense of vitality and energy composed of prana. It pervades the whole organism, physically manifesting in the constant flow of movement and breath. The third body is the mind, Manomaya kosha, the embodied perception of thoughts and feelings. The fourth body is called the body of wisdom, or the higher mind, the Vinyamaya kosha, the reflective aspect of consciousness. The fifth body is composed of great joy that arises from within, Anandamaya kosha, Ananda meaning bliss, dispassionate non-attachment to the experience of the other bodies, also known as the causal bodies. It is the consciousness that is always there, that has always been there, and that will always be there. Even when the mind, senses, and body are sleeping, it manifests itself by catching a reflection of the divine, which is absolute bliss, felt in moments of calm inner peace and tranquility. And that was a quote by Mark Stevens. The story that I told you of Matsyendra, or Matsya, the fish, remember, Matsya traveled through these 5 bodies as he grasped the teachings of Shiva. If you have read Ram Dass and the Grist for the Mill, he also is talking about the channels that go through 1 through 5. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about physical bodies, and it goes through all of these different kinds of koshas in the body. We should be, as yogis, be able to go through all different koshas and still remain in that 5th kosha. Yes, that blissful, wonderful, reflective state of non-attachment. The allegory points to the hidden transformation available to yoga students through a devoted practice. Let's discuss that. Classical yoga was first described as a systemic approach to self-realization by Patanjali around 200 BC. His classical text, the Yoga Sutras, describe the nature of the mind and ways to control its restlessness. Unlike the other Indian philosophical systems, yoga is based on a process of physical and mental training, culminating in the direct experience of realizing the universal self within everyone. Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha, Tata, Drashu, Sarvarupe, Advastam. Yoga is experienced in that mind which has ceased to identify itself with its vacillating waves of perception, ceasing the fluctuations of the mind. When this happens, then the seer is revealed resting in its own true nature, and one realizes the true self. Then we are doing yoga. Patanjali defines guideposts to keep the students of yoga progressing along the path. While there are numerous paths to yoga, they have a common thread that has been delineated in the Yoga Sutras. In fact, the sutras can be taken as a guide for anyone undergoing any discipline of body, breath, emotions, mind, spirit. The goal of yoga is to merge the mind into the true self and thus be true to yourself in all thoughts, words, and deeds. Anyone proceeding along this path cannot help but experience more joy and health. Yoga is not a religion. People of all faiths practice yoga. And from a yogi's point of view, everyone is doing yoga. Everyone is seeking the joy found in the experience, or the self as our own innate spirituality. Yet most of the time, we do not realize that the joy we seek is experienced within, in the discovery of the self. We erroneously believe our joy comes from objects of sensual pleasure or external things. Yoga, then, is a continuous process. For serious students, it's life's work. Yoga, as the stilling of mind, occurs momentarily in many people without training. Often, following periods of concentration, people will report that they were performing a task and became perfectly still. Their breathing became nearly unnoticeable and they lost all sense of time. During these periods of active meditation, access to intuitive insight is available. It is through the study of yoga in the context of the guidelines laid out in the sutras that these momentary experiences become part of daily living. So these quotes that I am saying to you, a lot of them are coming from Mukunda styles. Patanjali's practical means of knowing the inner self is known as Ashtanga Yoga, the yoga of 8 limbs. It is also called Raja Yoga, the royal path to self-realization, mainly concerning the mind, it also means to radiate, to be radiantly happy, and to share that compassionate affection for all creation. Let's review the 8 limbs. Ahimsa, nonviolence. Satya, truthfulness. Asteya, abstaining from stealing. Brahmacharya, behavior that moves one towards the truth or moderation. Aparigraha, non-coveting. So those are the yamas. And here we have the niyamas. Saucha, purity. Santosha, contentment. Tapas, perseverance and self-service. Heat, discipline. Svadhyaya, study of the self. And Ishvari pradnidhana, devotion, dedication, faith to God, or something that you can't see. Then we have the 3rd limb, asana. Now in this limb, we need to always think about sthira sukha, which means a pose or a posture that can be both strong and soft at the same time. Then we have the 4th one, pranayama, regulation of prana. 5th is pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses from their objects. The 6th, dharana, contemplation of one's true nature. 7, dhyana, meditation. And 8, samadhi, total absorption in the self. Some more wisdom from Mukunda styles. Again, going back to our friend Matsya. The Eightfold Path is exactly what happened in his transformation. With a strong interest to hear about the yamas and niyamas, his body becomes still. And in losing all awareness of his body, these sensations common to willful movement, asana, his breath becomes subtle and steady, pranayama. Then his prana and senses withdrew their awareness of the distinction between outside and inside, pratyahara. Next his mind focused intently upon listening to the teachings, dharana and dhyana. Finally he lost the sense of I and was left with only the awareness of self as pure consciousness, samadhi. So let's talk a little bit about Hatha Yoga. Mukunda style says the word yoga is usually preceded by a descriptive adjective that connotes a particular method. In general, most yoga in the United States today are variations of Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga represents asana and pranayama, steps 3 and 4 of the 8 limbs. Ha means sun and ta means moon. Sun representing the energies of the solar plexus, while moon represents energies of emotions located in the limbic region of the brain. Hatha Yoga seeks to balance the body with the mind and gut instincts with intuition. Hatha Yoga is not an end to itself, rather it's a means to direct the mind by removing obstacles of unsteadiness and discomfort that are experienced in the body, breath, and sensory awareness. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika was written in the 14th century by Swami Swatmarma. It is the first substantial writing on Hatha Yoga. One passage states, Hatha Yoga wisdom is offered solely and exclusively as a preparation for Raja Yoga. But Mark Stevens says that the original text, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the Shiva Samhita, the Garanda Samhita, he believes that the original text state 3 main purposes of Hatha Yoga. 1, total purification of the body. 2, the complete balancing of the physical, mental, and energetic fields. And 3, the awakening of pure consciousness through which one ultimately connects with the divine by engaging in practices rooted in the physical body. Hatha Yoga in its origins is very tied to Tantra. Sometimes he doesn't like the link to Raja Yoga, when you read a lot about Mark Stevens in his teaching yoga book. Hatha Yoga uses all we are, physically, mentally, emotionally, our most subtle and elusive inner nature as the raw materials for learning, seeing, and integrating our entire being, opening up us to our fullest imagination, intelligence, enthusiasm, energy, and awareness of spiritual life. The problem is we get stuck in our mind, our body. Hatha Yoga offers a way to experience this integration along a path involving very specific practices that purify the body, calm the mind, and open your heart. Mukunda Stiles says, in the traditions of classical yoga, the disciplines of the body and breath were aimed at freeing the student from body consciousness. This transcending of the body leads to an awareness of one's life, one's force of energy, as transcendent. In the same manner, those who practice Raja Yoga are trained to become free of mental and emotional consciousness. This leads to an awareness of oneself as a spiritual being, both immanent and transcendent. What do you think about those two thought processes? Patanjali Sutra states the process of asana and pranayama. So, Chapter 2, Sutras 46 through 49, disciplines and the experience that will arise when yoga is practiced in the systemic, all-inclusive approach. It says, yoga pose is a steady and comfortable position, sthira sukha, asana. Yoga pose is mastered by relaxation of effort to create a lessening of the natural tendency for restlessness and identification of oneself as living within the infinite stream of life. From that perfection of yoga pose, duality, such as praise and criticism, ceases to be a disturbance. When this is acquired, then naturally flows a cessation of the moments of inspiration and exhalation. This is called regulation of breath. Tell me what you think about this. Mukunda Stiles talks about the benefits of yoga asana. He says it manifests on two levels. The central benefit is produced from following the guidelines Patanjali has in his sutras, chapter 2, 46. When this relaxation of effort and steadiness of body is created, the resulting pleasurable sensations of being in the stillness and contentment of the final pose pervades all levels of psychology, physiology, and consciousness. It is this benefit that makes yoga unique. The multidimensional being is put into a state of reintegration that organically creates the feeling of wholeness. This benefit is common to all asana utilized with concentration, steady breathing, ujjayi breath. The particular asana has little to do with the level of benefit. The general benefits create mental equilibrium, emotional health, calmness, sensitivity to yourself and others, and prepare the mind for meditative introspection. It is with this understanding that the early writers of yoga advocated the mastery of one asana, primarily from seated postures. The secondary benefit is from the practice of asana that relate to the specific movements of the body and how that positively affects the physiology. These are important benefits from a health and curative point of view. They form the basis of yoga therapy. The variety of motions of yoga asana produce changes to the cardiovascular system as well as benefits to the musculoskeletal system. Example, forward bending is known to be sedative compared with back bending, which are stimulative. Standing poses and forward bending lower blood pressure, while back bends and inverted poses tend to elevate it. And we can go on and on and on about postures. Without receiving the general benefits of classical yoga, the specific benefits to health and physiology are short-lived. So let's talk about that too a little bit. The mastery of yoga asana is clearly stated in the 48th sutra, that duality ceases to be a disturbance. An indifference to pleasure, pain, hot, cold, praise, criticism, flexibility, stiffness. It is the resulting mental state from perfection of yoga asana. We no longer hold on to things or thoughts that the mind make us attached to. This is a rare occurrence here in the West. Most just get improved health, good feeling, better posture, increased self-esteem. It's great, all those things are great. But isn't yoga a little bit more? Think about that, and let's discuss that as well. The process of yoga asana leads directly to pranayama. Again, chapter 2, sutras 49 to 52. There are a multitude of ways to practice pranayama, but unless they lead you to a subtle and prolonged breathing pattern and ultimately stillness of breath, the practitioner is not getting the optimal benefit from the practice. These sutras further explain that the combined practices lead to a complete readiness for contemplation and meditation. Patanjali is interested in the process of sustained practice done over a full lifetime. Think about what your goals in yoga are. By setting a clear, concise goal, your mind will be able to achieve it, provided you remain positive and you are persistent in your discipline. The greater goal, my loves, is knowing yourself and realizing your multidimensional nature. The goal of asana is indeed freedom from duality. The attainment of this goal reveals something more of you than the body consciousness. So far we've discussed the yogic view of being well. So now, let's turn a little bit towards the West and look at more a Western approach of wellness and holistic health. And we're going to discuss this and see if there's some common ground. A holistic philosophy. So what I'm going to discuss with you is taken from essays from Debbie and Carlos Rosas. Today, the single dimension of physical fitness and health is joined by dimensions of mind and spirit to feed the needs of the whole person. This new paradigm in the West is called holistic fitness. It allows you to tap into your inner life, blending conscious thought and action to bridge the gap between the mind, the body, and the emotional spirit. As an instructor, you can learn to dance with the multidimensional aspects of human functioning. The philosophy of holistic fitness is based on holism, meaning that everything exists in relationships, and you cannot change any part without affecting the whole. The basic premise of a holistic program is that there is a heightened level of wellness and fitness that exists when you consider human beings more than the mere sum of their physical parts. When you consider all that the body, mind, and spirit offer. In class, the whole of each student is considered, including his or her physical health, mental, emotional, social, environmental, spiritual, and nutritional habits. All exercises, principles, and concepts in a holistic fitness movement or environment offer a way for the student to safely and continually improve and change. There are many ways to learn movement. Holistically, you can place this psychophysical learning into two categories, rational and intuitive, with the emphasis on blending these two to encourage systemic and conscious movement. In this way, you can positively integrate the senses, the motor body, and the thinking body, using both the left and right sides of the brain, using both the intellectual and creative selves. So, rational learning is the Western, more scientific way of embodying information, a way of processing information that discriminates, divides, compares, measures, categorizes. While this process is effective in learning, it's not the only way to learn and should not be. It should not also be relied upon solely for gathering information. You can observe your rational thinking to absorb information from books, to question, to observe, divide, disseminate information. It's a real useful tool, but it's not the only one that's available to you. Intuitive learning. This is an approach using the physical body in a much more sensate, non-intellectual way. This is developed by observing the body from a place other than through the five senses, opening yourself up to the feelings and sensations that come through you from your body. You can perceive this as maybe your sixth sense. Drawing on your inner resources, this process enables you to hear more, see more, remember more, creating a body seeing, a body wisdom that goes along with right knowing. It is here that you gain access to hidden images, ideas, sensory-based memories, and conscious creativity. Systemic learning. This takes place when the learning modes of the mind, the body, and the spirit collaborate. It combines intuitive and rational learning and allows you to become more fully integrated and alive. It is the safest, though an energetically efficient way to learn. Let's look at how these two groups learn. Rational learners. They're very good at responding to verbal directions and love to be told exactly how to do something. They like to think about how to do the exercise. Actually, they love to think. Unfortunately, this slows down their responsive time. They grab on to each command with their eyes and ears and follow step by step, hoping that this will help them integrate body parts and follow the sequence in class. They can follow various rhythms when logically presented, spoken out loud, and given precise place and time. They are generally more comfortable in a structured class and may get agitated if there's no form or structure to hold on to. They are best guided from precision and form into feelings and expressions. Then we have our intuitive learners. These guys really readily trust their body's other wisdom and actually have an easier time with spatial awareness. They easily adjust to different rhythms, movements, and flow in and out of change easily. They love to feel their way through the exercise. They prefer not to think about how to do it, and they enjoy the freedom of spontaneous, freer movement. Their downside can be a lack of focus and inability to structurally organize movements in precise ways. They have a tendency to get confused and irritated when too many verbal and visual directions and commands are given. They are best guided from feeling and expression into form and precision. Let's talk about steps in creating awareness. To develop and enhance extended body, mind, spirit awareness in holistic terminologies, we want to focus on a particular body part and its actions. Then we want to ask yourself a question about it that would elicit thinking and observation. Then we want to recognize what is true for you based on your physical and mental questioning and observation. Then acknowledge where you are and create a change based on what you can do to comfortably and safely move to another level. When you feel harmony and balance, you're on track. As you gain awareness, perception skills, you'll be ready to teach awareness to your students. The following principles should be reinforced whenever necessary. 1. Slow down and be present in the moment, blending the senses of your mind, your body, and spirit to feel and help direct your choices of action. 2. Find a focus, such as your hand or elbow, to help you direct your attention and energy. Stay with that focus until you feel you have begun to move in new ways and from places that feel natural. 3. In a non-judgmental atmosphere, stay fascinated in your process. 4. Remain process-oriented, over goal-oriented, please. Yes, process-oriented. We're in the process. Goal-oriented sometimes takes us to not so great places. Make small adjustments that keep you moving in the direction of change. 6. Be willing to remain on a plateau. What you consider a no-change place, remember that changes are always occurring. It's often more difficult to sense the smaller, minute changes as they are developing. 7. Respect the wisdom of your body, mind, and spirit, and be willing to go slower. Take 2 steps back, work less, start over, re-examine, be patient. Should there be some small amount of physical, mental, and emotional discomfort as the changes occur. 8. Every day evaluate how you are feeling relative to your growth and fitness. Observe yourself in class and out of class. 9. Awareness is about being conscious. Change takes time. Replace frustration and anxiety with patience and love. And 10. Choose one thing that you would like to change and be aware of that part, that quality or action. Send loving energy to that area and create action in and around it. So this is the exercise that we're going to do, that I've asked you to do. Let's talk about that when you're done with it. In a group setting. 1. We want to look for and feel for a sense of balance while everyone is executing motions, postures, whatever they're doing. 2. We want to look for and feel for ease and receptivity in body and in others. Observe the overall physical, mental, spiritual energy moving through the class. You feel energy. You have to get in tune with that. 3. Notice what everyone can easily do and build from that place of safety and security. 4. Make adjustments that will create a natural flow in all the movements. So here are some holistic modalities. Some you might have heard of, some you might not have heard of. So your assignment is to go through all of these modalities, research them, right? Google them. I want you to know about all of them, right? Tai Chi, Taekwondo, Aikido, modern dance, yoga, Feldenkrais, Alexander technique, Rolfing, and somatics. The goal is to teach in ways that provide positive results, in which you encourage non-judgmental learning and free expression of the self. It is important to guide students into their own discovery rather than demanding that they follow you, the teacher. Give yourself permission to be real and to express emotion. In this way, your students have permission to do the same. Go slowly and remain compassionate and loving throughout your process. Let's talk about wellness. These are taken from essays from John Travis, MD, and Mervyn Callender. While many people think of wellness only in physical terms, nutrition, fitness, stress reduction, its originators envisioned it as a multidimensional concept, incorporating the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of a human being. At its core, wellness reflects a paradigm that stands in direct contrast to the prevailing treatment model. The wellness model promotes self-responsibility, compassion, and cooperation between client and practitioner. With the practitioner or coach's help, the client recognizes disease as a message, drawing attention to an aspect of life that needs healing, rather than something to be overcome, rejected, or fixed. The wellness model then empowers individuals to continue developing their unique potential as growing human beings. The word wellness caught on in the hospitals and corporate worlds in the 1970s and 1980s, but at the cost of its proponents watering down of the original concepts in order to fit wellness into the existing medical treatment model. Similarly, many fitness programs are based on a modified treatment dominator. Its attention is placed on human doing, right? Not human beings. So it's focused on problems, symptoms, or attempting to overpower them. Great attention, again, is placed on human doing, action, behavior, change, but little attention is placed on human being, the underlying beliefs and feelings. The present emphasis on quick results, easy fixes, falls short of addressing the fundamental issues that lead to despair and self-destructive behaviors that in turn have driven our illness care system into bankruptcy. Sustainable well-being requires addressing the underlying self-destructive attitudes and behaviors rampant throughout society. Popular definitions of wellness need to be expanded beyond their narrow focus on individual fitness or nutrition. Without addressing the underlying causes of disease, such programs are only band-aids, providing no more than symptomatic relief. The wellness of an individual cannot be addressed in any meaningful way unless viewed within the context of the prevailing consciousness of the world. The impact of this consciousness is universal, manifesting in every realm of our society, the medical, economic, environmental, psychological, and the spiritual. It is inseparable from our well-being. The treatment models mirror the prevailing cultural norms. It is rooted in the paradigm of discountability. The roles open to us in this paradigm are the oppressed, the dominator, the rescuer. Even the language of the treatment model, compliance, regime, battling, overcoming, reveals its fundamentally adversarial mindset. This approach is also perpetuated through many professionals' desire for only tips and practical tools with minimal questioning of the underlying assumptions inherent in the system. The system is bankrupt, financially and emotionally. Frustration and burnout among practitioners is at an all-time high. Clearly, something major has to be changed. The wellness model offers a fundamentally different approach to disease and health. Sustainable well-being, personal and planetary, calls for a shift into a paradigm of accountability. The roles available here focus on life as a learning experience, full of endless possibilities. The result are self-responsibility with love, compassion, cooperation, and conscious co-creation. And in class, you saw the model that I showed you, that there's a neutral point, it's the wellness model, and we'll go over that again in class. So, what is wellness? Wellness is a choice. It's a decision you make to move towards optimal health. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle you design to achieve your highest potential for well-being. It's a process, a developing awareness that there is no end point, but that health and happiness are possible in each moment, here and now. It's a balanced channeling of energy received from the environment transformed within you and returned to affect the world around you. It's an integration of body, mind, and spirit. It's the appreciation that everything you do and think and feel and believe has an impact on your state of health. It's also the loving acceptance of yourself. Many people think in terms of illness and assume that the absence of illness indicates wellness. There are actually many degrees of wellness, just as there are many degrees of illness. The wellness model we looked at can be used at any point on the continuum and help you move towards higher levels of wellness. It's not intended to replace the treatment model, but to work with it. If you are not well, treatment may be important for you, but don't stop at the neutral point. You want to move to optimal wellness. While people often lack physical symptoms of illness, they still may be bored, depressed, tense, anxious, or generally unhappy with their lives. Such emotional states often set the stage for physical and mental disease. Even cancer can be brought on through the subsequent lowering of the body's resistance from excessive stress. The same feelings can also lead to abuse of the body through smoking, overdrinking, overeating, and not exercising. But these symptoms and behaviors represent only the tip of the iceberg. They are usually substitutes for other more basic human needs, such as recognition from others, a more stimulating environment, caring and affection from friends, and greater self-acceptance. The well-being is not necessarily the strong, the successful, the young, or even the illness-free being. A person can be living a process of wellness and yet be physically handicapped, aged, in pain, or imperfect. Conversely, he or she can be physically healthy and still functioning from an illness mentality, constantly worrying and judging themselves. Regardless of where on the illness-wellness continuum a person assigns themselves, what matters most is the direction that they're focusing on. So let's discuss this iceberg model. Icebergs reveal only about 1/10 of their mass above water. The remaining 9/10 remain submerged. Your current state of health, be it one of disease or vitality, is just like the tip of the iceberg. This is the apparent part. And if you don't like it, you can attempt to change it, do things to it, chisel away at unwanted conditions. But whenever you chip some off, sometimes more of the same takes its place. To understand all that creates and supports your current state of health, you have to look under the surface. The first level is lifestyle behavior level. What you eat, how you use and exercise your body, how you relax and let go of stress, how you safeguard yourself from the hazards around you. Many people follow lifestyles that they know are destructive both to their own well-being and to that of the planet, yet they may feel powerless to change them. To understand why, you must look still deeper into the physiological motivation, cultural level. Here lies what moves you to lead the lifestyle you've chosen. You can learn what payoffs you get from being overweight, smoking, driving recklessly, or from eating well, being considerate of others, and getting regular exercise. Exploring below the psychological level is the spiritual being meaning level. It has no limit. It includes the mystical and mysterious and everything else in the unconscious mind and concerns such issues as your reason for being, the real meaning of your life, or your place in the universe, how you address the questions and the answers you choose, underlying and permeate all the layers above. Ultimately, this realm or level determines whether the tip of the iceberg, representing your state of health, is one of disease or wellness. Let's talk about the wellness energy system. There's energy input. Imagine yourself receiving energy from 3 major sources: breathing, sensing, and eating. So that's food that's oxidized by cells and used to build and repair body tissue. You convert some of this energy you take in to maintain the channel, your body, by generating heat and nerve impulses, replenishing and distributing blood, nutrient, and hormones, and repairing tissues. So the energy output. Now think of your body as a pipeline or conduit of energy. You channel that energy through your body, mind, and being, converting it to forms of energy before returning it to the environment around you. Wellness results from the balanced flow of these energies through you. So there's 9 different outflows of energy to the environment. 1, self-responsibility and love. This energy manifests as the attitude you choose towards your life. Wellness is enhanced by living your life with self-responsibility and love. 2, moving. Not only do we move our bodies through our external environment, but you move internal muscles to provide blood circulation, digestion, reproduction, etc. 3, feeling. Energy used to express emotions. 4, thinking. The brain is a major user of energy, thought processes, intuition, dreaming. 5, playing or working. How you spend most of your waking hours. 6, communicating. This is a complex form of energy, encompassing many of the preceding forms of energy. 7, sex. It covers the whole spectrum of life, energy. It's not just sexual feelings. 8, finding meaning, seeking purpose and direction to the above forms of energy. 9, transcending, beyond the rational and connects us with all that is. Putting together input and output, we have a complete wellness energy system of a human being. This system is an alternative to the usual piecemeal ways of looking at health. It offers an integrated view of all human life functions, seeing them as various forms of energy. The harmonious balance of these life functions result in good health and well-being. Small changes have a ripple effect because of their interdependence of all aspects of life. You can't wear tight shoes for too long before you notice that everything seems cramped. And when you're worried about something, you're likely to have an upset stomach too. And so what may appear to be separate events or individual symptoms are really interconnected aspects of a much larger and more complex system. Since there are many of us, and we are all interacting and exchanging energy with each other and everything else in our environment, the picture is real large. Taken together as a whole, our picture can be no smaller than the whole planet. But remember that small changes can have big results. Through small changes, we can heal ourselves, our students, and the world. So let's discuss the similarities of the Western approaches, holistic and wellness, and our yogic viewpoint. Can we combine the two? By taking these approaches with our students, can you, as a teacher, see benefit? How? Let's take this further and learn techniques on how to observe, assess, and evaluate our clients. What are benefits to assessing a client? So this is taken from essays by Mary Yoke. Why should you be knowledgeable about assessments? What does an assessment consist of? How is it administered? And what do you do with all the information that you collect? Those are great questions. All health clubs, studios, personal trainers, coaches should, at the very minimum, request that their clients complete a health history or a risk factor check, an informed consent for testing purposes, and depending on the client's health status, request a signed physician's release form. This basic health screening should be an essential part of any client's entry procedure because it will help to identify individuals at risk for cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, or other health problems. A basic health screening helps protect the client, as important, and is also important for the club or the trainer from a legal and insurance perspective. Nonetheless, some components of a thorough fitness exam or assessment may not be considered essential, but will nevertheless yield a great deal of useful information to you. Let's talk about the benefits of an assessment. 1, it helps establish the client's current health status and provides you with baseline information. 2, it provides useful information for comparison as the client improves. 3, it serves as a powerful and educational motivating tool, thus increasing the likelihood of adherence. And that means the likelihood that they'll come back, they'll repeat the sessions again and again. 4, demonstrates your professional prudence and knowledge, which can be helpful if potential legal issues arise. And 5, it allows you to individualize the client's program so that he or she achieves the personal goals efficiently and safely. So assessments are never, ever, ever used to make medical diagnoses or to serve as the basis to make medical treatment decisions. There are 3 steps. 1, there's an initial screening. 2, there's a physical assessment. In our case, we're going to talk about joint flexibility, range of motion, postural malalignments. And 3, the interpretation and counseling session. 1, the initial screening. You need to have a health history form. You have one in your study guide. The initial screening and paperwork are essential steps prior to your work with your student or your client. These forms should be collected at your first meeting, and if your client has risk factors that require medical clearance, you will want to postpone further testing or exercise until his or her physician has signed and they have returned the physician's clearance to you. Have it in your hand. Don't do it without it. Samples of health history, again, and your physician's clearance and your informed consent, they're all in your folders. B, analyze risk factors. By definition, a risk factor is any factor that makes it more likely than not that an individual will have a disease. The more factors a person has, the greater likelihood of developing a particular disease. A ACSM has identified major risk factors in the development of the number one cause of death in the United States, coronary heart disease. 1. Diagnosed high blood pressure greater or equal to 140/90. 2. Total cholesterol levels greater than or equal to 200, or HDL 35. 3. Cigarette smoking. 4. Impaired fasting glucose of 10 mg. 5. Family history of heart disease or sudden death in father or male siblings prior to age 55, before 65 in mothers or female siblings. 6. Sedentary lifestyles, physical inactivity. 7. Obesity. The health history form should inquire as to whether your client has any of these risk factors, has known cardiac, pulmonary, or metabolic diseases, or has any symptoms that might suggest that he or she has any of the above. What is a symptom for cardiorespiratory or metabolic disease? 1. Chest pain. 2. Unaccustomed shortness of breath. 3. Dizziness or fainting. 4. Ankle swelling. 5. Palpitations or irregular heartbeat. 6. Cramping pains in legs or feet. 7. Unusual fatigue. 8. Known heart murmur. Then we have the physician's clearance. After noting your client's responses to the health history form, as well as his or her age and sex, it's recommended that you require a physician's clearance if 1. They have 2 or more risk factors present. 2. They have symptoms of cardiopulmonary or metabolic disease. 3. There is known cardiac, pulmonary, or metabolic disease. 4. The client is 45 or over if they're a male. The client is over 55 or over if she's a female. D. The informed consent. Prior to our actual physical assessment of the client, they should read and sign an informed consent form. This form should briefly explain the test procedures or the asanas or whatever you're going to be doing for them, with added risks or maybe some discomfort that they might feel that it might involve. Benefits that can be expected from the assessment, the opportunity for the client to ask questions, and responsibility of the client during the assessment if they feel unusual or feelings of pain. They need to speak up. After this, I usually also give them a lifestyle wellness evaluation. It will tell you if they smoke, if they drink in excess, what their diet is like. It also provides insight into an individual's social, emotional, and intellectual health. Step 2. Here's our physical assessment. It's from Mukunda Styles. It's called Body Reading. We're taking this physical assessment in a yogic perspective because we're going to be doing some yoga therapy or holistic yoga, and I thought this was quite appropriate. Body reading. In 1973, a Hollander named Tinberger won the Nobel Prize for studying how posture affects every system in our body, not only the neuromuscular system, composed of joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles, nerves, but all of the physiological systems. This means that the endocrine system, immune system, respiratory system reflects changes in postures as well. A simple example is found in the fact that when people are depressed, their chests tend to collapse and they tend to underbreathe, making their respiratory system less efficient. Another example is that an imbalance in leg length, or even a quarter of an inch, which might come from ligamentous tension, muscle tightness in the hip flexors, or spinal problem, can change the action of the jaw muscle. This in turn can create an overbite. A tilt in the pelvis can be carried upward from the hips to increase the tension on one side of the jaw. If this posture is not corrected over time, it can create TMJ, headaches, orthodontic issues, and even impaired speech. Reading body language is instinctive, something we each do subconsciously, a way of tuning in to others and ourselves. We get a sense of someone else. Postural language contains a wealth of psychological information that we use daily to gauge the effectiveness of our communication and to express emotions. Elevated shoulders may mean someone is uptight. Rounded shoulders may tell us someone is depressed or closed-minded. Another form of body reading involves evaluating muscular tension. Freedom from tension allows us to move more naturally and express happiness and health. Subjectively, we know that improved posture indicates positive change. We take advantage of our subjective nature in yoga by changing our posture, first with yoga asana and then with other practices. Certain postural imbalances, knock knees, bow legs, a high shoulder, minor scoliosis, are not correlated to changes in psychological states. One does not need to be professionally trained in body readings to notice these deviations from the norm. Such differences are often due to heredity. In some instances, recreational or work habits may stress the musculature in such a manner as to enhance such conditions. Examples, athletes. Postural changes may also occur as simply as a response to stress. When someone says, "You look stressed out," they are reading your postural cues. A stress-related condition may have prevailed for so long that the individual doesn't realize that the associated muscular tension has created postural changes that have been ignored. Consequently, messages from these muscles also tend to be ignored. Your mind may simply translate those muscular messages to mean that you are stressed and need to relax. Yoga can help translate those muscular messages and make us more sensitive to warning signs, indicative of the approach of discomfort, which may bloom into disease if you fail to read them as encouragements to taking positive steps to maintain optimal wellness. Mukunda Style also says, in structural yoga therapy, any pathological condition or stress creates a change in muscle tension and posture. By identifying these specific tensors, we can prescribe yoga postures as well as breathing exercises tailored to your present situation. With this relief of chronic tension often comes insights into other aspects of your life that need change. Transform many aspects of their lives into optimal learning situations. For many of our students, yoga practice becomes a long-term commitment, no longer tied to disease or symptoms. Many postural abnormalities, such as knock knees, spinal curvatures, fallen arches, were either predisposed from birth or were shaped by our upbringing. Gordon Hughes points out, in a worldwide survey of postural habits, we sit, kneel, stand, recline in ways that are socially determined. It's clearly established that human posture, physique, motor habits, and body image, as well as emotions and thought patterns, are culturally shaped. Although perfect posture is an elusive and subjective thing, postural imbalances do create musculoskeletal tension to which we unconsciously adapt. Often our adaptation involves a lack of awareness of the musculoskeletal tensions associated with messages that they reflect. We have learned to live with our aches and pains, accepting them as normal, and we teach our children the same. What gets lost here is the human capacity for transformation. To change our posture without a change in consciousness is not what we do in yoga. Classical yoga is rooted in transformative experiences. You already know we can change the postural, the underlying patterns, and we already know that we can change the postural body. What you may not know, is how we can transform the underlying patterns that created the aches and pains in the first place. The scope of the process is not to necessarily change what was given at birth. However, given a passionate desire for liberation from the present situation, it is possible to transform the body predisposed to stress. Because our bodies are infinite in their variety in shapes and sizes. Everyone's experiences varies when practicing a posture. Your client, there are unique postures, alignment, and how you or they approach the posture is going to be different. Your yoga training will change more than what you feel. With accurate and compassionate instruction, it will teach you how to attend the sensations of the body. The first step is to get to know your students and your own body and its posture as it is today. 1. Preparation for body reading. This is an exercise that you all are going to do with yourselves, and then you're going to do it with a partner. So these are the beginnings of that. So get a pen and paper and start taking notes. Perception. 1. To be able to see not only what is obvious, but what needs to be unveiled at this point in time. Observe, for example, high shoulders, tilted head, all from a completely objective perspective. The objective is to see clearly and gather data without interpretation or moving quickly to fix it. Just look at it without judgment. 2, concentrated awareness. The ability to focus and at the same time to be free of distractions from the immediate environment. This requires the capacity to be present and non-judgmental, to just perceive. 3, self-study. The continuous process of knowing your own body's mind, signals and messages of its progress towards balance, symmetry, and homeostasis. Learning the signs of tension. By knowing the signs of tension, we are developing strength and those that are developing stress. Knowing the difference between symmetry with ease and manipulation towards balance. So 4, anatomical understanding. An evolving knowledge of general anatomy and kinesiology, as well as familiarity with your own personal experience of your body's stressors, misalignments, attempts towards balance. There is much to learn about anatomy, and a distinction needs to be made between gaining objective knowledge and knowledge of knowing yourself. 5, technique. A personal practice that assists in getting to know oneself more. The ideal practice will not only bring improved health and vitality, but heightened sensitivity to those areas of yourself that you have been unconscious of. So a master of bodywork, and his name is Richard Heckler, he shares this. 1, we want to look at ourselves as a whole and see what comes to the foreground. We want to look in a general manner. Don't try to look at specifics yet. 2, we want to look to see what is the most obvious, the contrast that with what is somehow subtly related. 3, we want to see what parts seem to have less maturity, strength, or development, and contrast that to parts that are more mature, strong, or developed. 4, we want to notice the relationship of body to gravity and your anatomical position. 5, we want to determine where the burden of tension is being carried. Number 6, we want to discover what parts of your body contracts or avoids feeling when you're under stress. 7, we want to see how you take up space, either filling it up or shrinking from your actual physical size. 8, we want to observe yourself in motion. Watch for relationships of rhythm, power, flexibility, balance, and symmetry. 9, question whether you work in or out of harmony with yourself. 10, watch your respiratory pattern and look especially for overworked regions and the contrasting underdeveloped areas. Explore how your breath comes in and what sequence it proceeds to flow through your torso. Is it regular or unstable? So we're going to do a self-postural exam, and we're going to go through all the pamphlets, going through all the postural misalignments in the body that happen, and we're going to go through the joint freeing sequence. Here is where we help our clients to set reasonable expectations. We want to clarify intentions and help set their goals. And here's a really great thing to do. You want to ask them to list 12 things that they want to achieve. 12 things, right, on a piece of paper. And then, after they've done that diligently, you want to tell them to cut it in half and only pick 6. 6 of the most important things. And then when they've done that, you want to tell them to cut that in half and have 3 things that are most important to them to achieve right now. Then, we want to take those 3, and out of those 3, we're going to ask them to pick the one that they want the most. This is a great way to get them to prioritize and to really feel what is it they need to work on now in this present moment. Setting goals will allow for more accurate evaluations as they proceed, using a reference point by which to gauge themselves. An ideal is to have both objective goals that can be easily monitored and subjective goals that are best evaluated from within. By a willingness to observe the mind, you can uncover what it is that you seek, as well as natural optimism. These 2 elements create the power of intention. Remember, whatever you look for, you will find. Use the power of intention to develop physical, quantifiable qualities like awareness, improved posture, better alignment, strength, fullness of breath, stamina. Through this past power, you can develop nurturing friendships. You can also use this power for the spiritual goal of being more connected to the loving divine presence. There is no barrier to change. Even pain is not a barrier. Practicing yoga helps us to overcome obstacles within ourselves that may be preventing us from fully enjoying life and responding in beneficial ways to the variety of situations we encounter daily. Practicing yoga with concentration and devotion can bring noticeable changes in our circumstances almost immediately. We can be the agents of change for them, but they must do the work. So now we're going to explore how we as teachers are motivators and agents for change. Motivating, helping set goals and intentions, behavior change, adherence to a program. So this is an essay, and I've taken specific bullet points from it by Diana McNabb. Motivating is an internal force that is born from the process of self-discovery. If you don't know who you are, how can you help your student? How can you help your student come to know who they are? Success in teaching is derived from a basic understanding of the following three things. 1. Who am I? 2. What is my teaching philosophy? And 3. How can I best deliver my passion? So let's take a closer look at how a teacher can find the answers and become a true motivator. Self-discovery begins with your self-concept. This includes your ideal self, your self-image, how you see yourself, and self-esteem, how you feel about yourself. A motivating teacher has a healthy self-concept and a vision of what an ideal teacher is all about. They have pictured themselves in front of their class as being calm, poised, and ready. They can see the smile in their face and feel the energy and passion coming from their body. They are open and accepting of themselves. This healthy self-concept leads to empowerment of self and others and is a process that must be continuously worked on. Competent, consistent, and committed teaching comes from constant surveillance and understanding of yourself. So let's look at the universal laws of our being. These are the basic laws of what it is to be human, encompassing how we think, act, and feel. First, there is the law of control, which states that the more in control we are of our thoughts, attitudes, and actions, the better we feel about ourselves. The internal locus control is a sense that we are the captains of our own ship. The external locus control is a sense that other people are controlling our lives. The goal is to know who we are, what we want, and how to get there. Peak performance teaching comes from internal locus control. Adherence to a practice will create these same feelings, and communicating this should be an important goal for any instructor. The law of cause and effect states that thoughts are the cause of every result. Once we believe that we can control the channel through our thinking, we then have to concern ourselves with the training of the mind as well as the body. It is our thinking that creates possibilities of your life. Your thoughts today becomes your tomorrow. Then there's the law of the attraction. People are drawn to your most dominant thought. Negative thoughts attract not so great people. This is a no-brainer. Visualization and positive beliefs. What you can perceive and truly believe, you can achieve. Work with your students and clients with positive affirmations and positive beliefs. Get them to visualize the results they want. Believe in the process, and voila, it happens. So, these are the questions that I want you to ask yourself, and I want to have a discussion about these. So answer them. 1. What is your teaching philosophy? And how is it being utilized in your classes or with your clients? 2. Do your students come first? 3. What is your role to them? 4. Are you an educator, a motivator, communicator, or show-off? 5. Are you more interested in your own physical advancement than your clients or your students? Answer them honestly, and let's have a discussion about that. Your students come first. Your responsibility is that of a teacher, a guide, and a coach. Your role is also to educate them about who they are, and what their lifestyle choices can be, and how to care for their bodies and their souls. That's your job. Your success as a teacher is strongly related to your self-esteem. Credibility and accountability is what people are seeking. You, as an instructor, must be constantly growing, learning, and sharing new insights and ideas. Knowledge is power, but only if you know how to use it. Teaching philosophy should be centered around motivation. To reinforce intrinsic motivation, the teacher should always keep the sessions enjoyable, creative, and enjoy the process. Extrinsic is concerned with outcome, not process. It could be addictive, compulsive behavior, too much, too soon. As teachers, we want to emphasize the intrinsic part. And we also want to set realistic goals for them, help them do that. We also want to take personal steps for responsibilities and teach them about their actions. They are responsible. They are responsible for their lives. We want to teach them how to be proactive in their own life. And we want them to learn to enjoy their process. After you evaluate your client, make a plan, Stan. With 100% active listening to your client. Be there. Listen to what they have to say. Yeah, we're talking about this chakra. This is your Visuddha chakra. Make sure that you know how to listen first and then have that conversation. Don't jump in and think that you're the one that knows everything. You don't know anything about them yet except what you have on paper and that assessment. So let them have a conversation with you. Remember, motivation comes from within and is transmitted to others. It is actually the transfer of energy from one person to the next. And you, the teacher, you are the vehicle facilitating this transfer. Great teaching is about empowering others to set goals and take risks, and then guiding them in their efforts. A true sign of teaching success is selflessness.